Did you know that 4.7 million years ago, our earliest ancestors were literally dancing on the edge of extinction every single day? While you're sitting comfortably watching this video, your prehistoric relatives were facing down saber-toothed cats, surviving on insects and roots, and somehow managing to keep the human story alive against impossible odds. What they accomplished during this brutal period didn't just shape our evolution. It created the very foundation for every technology, every comfort, and every survival instinct you rely on today. Picture this: East Africa, 4.7 million years ago. The world looks nothing like the planet we know. Massive volcanic activity reshapes the landscape weekly. Dense forests stretch endlessly, broken only by rushing rivers and expansive lakes. The climate swings wildly between scorching heat and torrential downpours. And somewhere in this prehistoric chaos, small groups of early hominids are writing the first chapters of human survival. These weren't the humans you see in movies, swinging clubs and living in caves. The hominids of 4.7 million years ago stood barely 3.5 feet tall, with brains roughly 1/3 the size of modern humans. Their hands were still partially adapted for climbing, their faces projected forward like apes, and their entire existence revolved around one simple truth: adapt or die. But here's where the story gets absolutely fascinating. Despite having primitive tools, limited communication, and predators that could crush them in seconds, these early humans developed survival strategies so effective that we still use modified versions of them today. They became the ultimate survivors not through strength or speed, but through something far more powerful: collective intelligence and adaptability. The first breakthrough came through what scientists call cooperative foraging. While other primates competed fiercely for resources, early hominids discovered that working together multiplied their chances of survival exponentially. They developed primitive communication systems using gestures, vocalizations, and body language to coordinate hunting and gathering efforts. When one member of the group spotted danger, the entire community could respond within seconds. This cooperative behavior extended to food sharing, which was revolutionary for primates. Instead of each individual fighting for every scrap, successful foragers would return to the group and distribute their findings. This meant that even the weakest members could survive long enough to contribute their own unique skills, whether that was tool making, child rearing, or predator detection. Speaking of tools, the innovations happening 4.7 million years ago were mind-blowing for their time. These early humans weren't just picking up random sticks and stones. They were selecting specific materials based on their properties, modifying them for particular purposes, and even creating tools to make other tools. Sharp-edged stones became cutting implements for processing plant materials and small animals. Sturdy branches became digging sticks for extracting nutritious roots and tubers from the ground. The most ingenious tool innovation was the use of natural containers. Large leaves became water carriers and food storage systems. Hollow gourds served as portable vessels for transporting resources back to the group. Some evidence suggests they even used animal skins as primitive bags, though the preservation of such materials from this time period is extremely rare. But survival wasn't just about tools and cooperation. These early humans had to become master ecologists, understanding every aspect of their environment with deadly precision. They memorized seasonal patterns of plant growth, tracking which fruits ripened when and where to find them. They studied animal migration routes, learning to predict when protein sources would be most abundant and accessible. Water location became a specialized skill that meant the difference between life and death during dry seasons. Early hominids developed techniques for finding underground water sources by reading landscape features, following animal tracks to hidden springs, and even extracting moisture from certain plant species during emergencies. The dietary strategies of these prehistoric survivors were incredibly sophisticated. Modern nutritionists would be impressed by their intuitive understanding of balanced nutrition. They consumed a diverse array of foods, including seeds, nuts, fruits, roots, tubers, insects, bird eggs, and occasional small mammals. This varied diet ensured they received essential vitamins, minerals, and proteins necessary for brain development and physical health. Insects played a particularly important role in their nutrition. Termites, ants, and beetle larvae provided concentrated protein and fat that was relatively easy to obtain. Early hominids developed specialized techniques for harvesting these insects, including using thin sticks to extract termites from their mounds and timing their collection efforts to coincide with insect reproductive cycles when nutrition content was highest. The processing of plant materials revealed remarkable innovation. Tough roots and tubers required significant preparation to become digestible. These early humans learned to pound, mash, and potentially even ferment certain plant materials to break down tough fibers and neutralize natural toxins. This food processing not only expanded their dietary options, but also began the long journey toward the cooking technologies that would later define human culture. Predator avoidance required constant vigilance and creative problem-solving. The African landscape 4.7 million years ago teemed with massive carnivores that viewed early hominids as easy prey. Saber-toothed cats, giant hyenas, leopards, and crocodiles posed constant threats. Rather than confronting these predators directly, early humans developed elaborate avoidance strategies. Group sleeping arrangements became a sophisticated defensive system. Communities would select sleeping sites in areas that provided natural protection from ground-based predators, such as rocky overhangs or dense thickets. They maintained watch schedules throughout the night, with different individuals taking turns monitoring for approaching dangers. Fire control, though not yet fire creation, gave them a massive advantage. When lightning strikes or volcanic activity created natural fires, these resourceful hominids learned to maintain and transport flames using dried materials and careful tending. Controlled fire provided warmth during cold nights, protection from nocturnal predators, and the ability to extend their active hours into evening time. The social structures that emerged during this period laid the groundwork for all future human civilization. Leadership roles developed based on specialized skills rather than pure physical dominance. The individual who could best predict weather patterns might guide migration decisions. The person most skilled at tool-making might lead technological innovations. The most observant tracker might direct hunting expeditions. Child-rearing became a community responsibility that ensured knowledge transfer across generations. Unlike other primates where mothers bore primary responsibility for their offspring, early human communities developed collective child care systems. This meant that children learned survival skills from multiple adults, gaining diverse perspectives and expertise that increased their chances of reaching reproductive age. The development of primitive social rules and conflict resolution mechanisms prevented the internal fighting that could destroy small communities. Evidence suggests these early humans developed systems for sharing resources fairly, resolving disputes peacefully, and maintaining group cohesion even under extreme stress.
Communication evolution accelerated rapidly during this period. While these hominids couldn't speak in the modern sense, they developed increasingly sophisticated ways to share information. Gestures became standardized across groups, allowing for complex instructions about food locations, danger warnings, and coordination of group activities. Vocal communication expanded beyond simple emotional expressions to include specific calls for different types of threats or opportunities. The ability to plan for future events separated these early humans from other animals in profound ways. They began catching food supplies during abundant seasons to sustain them through leaner times. They selected and modified tools in advance of needing them, demonstrating abstract thinking about future scenarios. They even began choosing settlement locations based on long-term resource availability rather than immediate needs. Migration patterns became increasingly sophisticated as groups learned to follow seasonal resources across vast territories. These weren't random wanderings, but carefully planned movements that maximized access to food, water, and safe shelter throughout the year. Knowledge of migration routes, seasonal timing, and territorial boundaries became precious information passed down through generations. The physical adaptations happening during this period were equally remarkable. Bipedalism became more refined, allowing for more efficient long-distance travel and freeing the hands for tool use and carrying. Brain size began increasing gradually, supporting more complex problem-solving and social coordination. Teeth and digestive systems adapted to handle the diverse plant materials that formed the foundation of their diet. Environmental challenges pushed innovation in unexpected directions. During periods of climate change, when familiar food sources became scarce, these early humans demonstrated remarkable flexibility in adapting their survival strategies. They learned to exploit previously unused resources, develop new tool techniques, and even modify their social structures to better handle environmental stress. The impact of these prehistoric survival innovations extends far beyond ancient history. Every time you cooperate with others to solve a problem, you're using strategies first developed 4.7 million years ago. When you plan ahead for future challenges, you're exercising mental capabilities that were literally life or death skills for your ancient ancestors. The human capacity for tool use, social cooperation, environmental adaptation, and forward thinking all trace their origins back to these remarkable early survivors. Modern survival experts study these prehistoric techniques because they represent the most battle-tested survival strategies in human history. Bushcraft specialists teach methods for finding water, processing wild plants, and reading environmental signs that directly descend from innovations developed millions of years ago. Military survival training incorporates group cooperation and resource-sharing principles that mirror the social structures of early hominid communities. The psychological resilience demonstrated by these prehistoric humans offers profound lessons for modern life. They faced daily challenges that would break most contemporary people, yet they maintained the mental fortitude necessary to innovate, cooperate, and persevere. Their ability to find hope and maintain group morale during the darkest circumstances created the psychological foundation that would eventually enable humans to conquer every environment on Earth. Perhaps most remarkably, these early humans laid the groundwork for the cultural transmission of knowledge that defines our species. Unlike genetic inheritance, which passes along fixed traits, cultural inheritance allows each generation to build upon the innovations of their predecessors. The survival techniques developed 4.7 million years ago became the foundation for increasingly sophisticated technologies, social systems, and environmental adaptations that would ultimately lead to human civilization. The next time you face a seemingly impossible challenge, remember that you carry within your DNA and cultural heritage the accumulated survival wisdom of millions of years. Your prehistoric ancestors didn't just survive against overwhelming odds. They thrived, innovated, and created the foundation for everything humans have achieved since. Their story isn't just ancient history. It's the continuing saga of human ingenuity, cooperation, and determination that lives on in each of us today.